everything broke because you pressed one button.
You're very lucky that you have a father that's as technologically advanced as I am, and I got it fixed, even with you not here.
You got it fixed because I had you on FaceTime telling you what to do.
You know what? Welcome back to Talking Story. My name is John Min. That right there is my literary wingman and tech support.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're IT guy.
Yeah, I absolutely need one.
You're on-call tech support.
Yeah, that is true.
What are you doing?
Sometimes my cord is all. I wish I had a cord wrangler.
You hate that cord.
I do. I hate the cord. I wish I had a live-in tech support person. Sometimes I forget how to email, stuff like that.
I know. That's why the producer, or no, the production memos don't exist.
No, the production meetings happen. You just don't show up.
Because they're in your head. They're not real.
Yeah. Well, a lot happens in my head that you don't know about. Hey, man. So look, can you believe the month is over? We are past spooky season's over.
That's weird.
Put it away for another year. Decorations, candy, it all goes away. We got 2 months left of the year. How weird is that?
You got 1 month until Dragonsteel.
I can't even wrap my noggin around that, man.
Bizarre.
I can't even get that. So we've got to wrap up everything we read in the month of October for spooky season. Did you get anything read? I know you got one thing read.
I finished the Gallant today.
Get out of town. So that's
doesn't count.
It doesn't count
because it's November 4th.
Because so that'll be on November's list. But you did, as we go through the stack, you did read something else.
I don't even remember what I read.
Oh my God, I can't believe you forgot that. But I'm just going to start rolling through because
let's do it. Go for it.
We're just burning daylight. Hey, we started spooky season with King of Horror, Stephen King. This is one of those that it was in that kind of window. Life gets busy, things like that. I've read so much Stephen King. This is in that window of one that I missed. Heidi, other people were saying, oh, you got to go back. You got to pick up Duma Key and read this one. I am so happy I did. I'm so happy I started spooky season with this one. Great read. Really great read. He can just do character. He just understands the experience that we have in a life lived. This starts out with a tragedy. It starts out with the tragedy just starts to snowball. There's a physical tragedy that happens to our main character, and it just starts to get worse and worse and impact his life more and more. And he has to kind of restart and rebuild himself. And he's starting to get a call to this place in the Florida Keys. It's calling out to him. He's going to go somewhere. He wants to just go to the beach and start over, leave all of this wreckage behind. And one certain place on Duma Key, one certain house calls him when he starts looking at rental opportunities. When he sees this one, he's done. He just knows this is it. And he's starting to get back into what he loved to do as a younger man. He's starting to get back into art, drawing. He's starting to get that passion back as he relaunches and restarts his life. After this, he was in construction for a great many years, had built his own company, had this horrible accident. Now he's starting to go back, and this place is calling to him. He can create here. And as you start to get into this mystery, you start to realize why, and you start to realize, I want to stay vague, I want to do spoilers, but in this accident, I kind of have to do this much, I think it's even on the back cover. In this accident, he actually loses a limb. And this ghost limb starts to allow him to tap into things and create things in a way that is prescient and in a way that taps into this other reality. And as he gets into that other reality and he gets into this place that has called him here and he gets into the mystery of this place that's been going on for generations, and he gets into this familial mystery of who used to own all this land that this place now sits on and what's happened in the past. It's a bit of a slow burn at the beginning, but it doesn't feel that way. This is about a 700-page book that I blew through in about 5 days because I don't know what King does with his characters, but he just laces them with something that you just cannot stop turning pages. You just have to see how it wraps up or where they're going to go or what this journey is going to do. So a bit of a slow burn as he has this relaunch to his life. But as the mystery starts to unfold and he starts to get deeper into all these things that have happened in this little area called Doomakey with this other family and get connected with that, oh, the darkness starts to descend. This goes to some dark places. Sometimes Stephen King can be that author for me that he the character work is always there, the journey is always there, but sometimes he can be an author in search of an ending, people say. Not so much with this one. He mines some darkness. He kills his darlings in this book. He puts these characters through the ringer, and just by the end of it, you feel like you have been through a wrecking machine. You have had a Swedish massage done on you by a wrecking machine, and you are just whipped because he has left you in a little mewling, sniveling, crying hovel over here after the end of this book, because you're going to get attached to these characters, and what happens to them is just tragedy upon tragedy upon tragedy. And it's such an amazing supernatural thread all the way through it, and it has, for me, quite a satisfying ending, even though tragic. And I have to say, The King of Horror, absolutely up for Book of the Month for spooky season. No two ways around it.
Is it really?
Yeah, it absolutely is. It absolutely. And I mean, I don't know if this would get a place on my top 10 of Stephen King. I'd really have to look at that top 10 list again and see if this would take the place of anything. But this was they were right, man. This is not one to miss. This is not one to sleep on. Doomakey is one by King you absolutely do want to read. This haunting of obsession and passion to create, it just really spoke to me, and it drove the whole book, and I thought it was a great, great read. I was very, very happy I started off spooky season with that.
Well, if you pick up any more Stephen King after this, you're going to have to revisit your Stephen King top 10.
Yeah, I'm going to have to. I mean, there's a good chunk of the, maybe somewhere between 8 and 10, 5 or 8, somewhere in there that I've missed.
I think most often people tell you to pick up Pet Sematary again is the one I hear about the most.
I read that so young, yeah, I could definitely schedule a reread on that. I'm sure it would hit me very differently now than it did when I was a sophomore in high school or whatever I was when I read it.
Probably.
Maybe even junior high, I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
After that, here's the one you finished.
Oh, I did, yeah.
You knob. You did finish Frankenstein
That's not
because
nice.
we did book club with the missus. Was Frankenstein. So I know you read it because we did book club with the missus was live this month for spooky season. We all got together. We all talked about this great classic, this redid. And hey, there's an absolute reason why this is a classic, right? Like, no doubt.
Oh, that book is awesome. It remains one of my favorite books of all time.
It really does. We had a great time with the discussion. Everyone that stopped by, it kind of went off the rails as things do with our family.
It was never on the rails. That stream
it was on the rails. We were on the rails.
The chat kept us on the rails. But we had nothing to do with that.
That is true. The chat was on the rails. We were pretty well off the rails. But what an amazing to think about a young author around 18, 19 years of age, spending a weekend at Lake Geneva, has a bit of a contest with Byron and Shelley and Dr. Polidori, and they're going to try to write the scariest story and present it to themselves as it's a rainy weekend and they can't get out and enjoy the lake. This is what Mary Shelley came up with, and we are still reading it. It is still topical. It is still moving to us. And it's prescient in a way that it still hits. Now people are saying, "Oh, this is kind of the first cautionary tale about AI and things like that." Absolutely, it is. You could argue that one of the first sci-fi books. You could definitely argue one of the first mad scientist books. Dr. Frankenstein is so driven to peel back that curtain and understand these mysteries of life and transcend this physical reality and possibly grasp godhood himself by creating life from dead tissue where life doesn't exist. and he gets enraptured into these old past alchemist texts, and from those he pulls away. And so much of this I did not remember from reading it in high schools, and it was just such a great journey to go through it again. It stays very vague about how he pulls life from this dead tissue. So you could look at it all different kind of ways as a story about. Well, I mean, we went into all of it at the discussion, but there's a reason why this still stays so relevant, so topical, so moving to us. It's such a great cautionary tale, hearkening all the way back to like that Faustian bargain that he makes to try and understand the mystery. And of course, it's going to go horribly wrong. And we talked about all that, so I'm not going to spend that. I mean, I think everyone understands what this book is about. If you've only seen the movie, I absolutely implore you to read the book.
Yeah,
it is not the same at all. Philosophically, it's quite deep. The relationships can be quite beautiful and at the same time quite tragic. And the prose itself, for a 19-year-old hanging out with some of the romantics, some of that, wow. I mean, she could craft.
It's almost unfair, man. Like
it's almost absolutely unfair, right? Like
the bar is set so high for someone of that age to be writing like that. It is entirely unfair.
It is truly remarkable. There's a reason why it's on my all-time list, and it's going to remain there. Cannot be up for Book of the Month, though, because rereads don't count.
As you had to decide this month. This is the first time you've reread a book in a long time, I think.
In quite a while, yeah. So, but Book Club with the Misses was so much fun. If you haven't checked it out, you can check out the replay of that live. It was a great, great time. We had a lot of laughs and a lot of fun. After that, I kind of got into some dark fantasy. I think this was the Patreon read, wasn't it?
It was indeed, yeah.
Yeah, this won the Patreon read. So, if you want to check that out, we can throw something up about how you could start voting on that if you're interested. Should we do that?
Yeah, voting starts again soon, so check this out.
Hey, just a quick break from the show to say a very special thank you to all of our correspondents, our directors, and our producers here that help us build the channel. Together, they do so many things. They help us make decisions. They help us keep the lights on and keep rolling, all the way up to taking over our channel once a month and getting their content on our channel. If you're interested and you have any questions about it, right down there in the description box under the Patreon link, you can find out all about it. And just a very special thank you to all of these people. Now, back to the show. Actually, voting doesn't start. We're doing a little bit different this month, but...
Oh, you're right. Well, if you were on the Patreon, you would have known that.
You would have known that. So nice try, you can play again. And, not only... we should mention this, now that we do Discord with Book Club with the Misses, we chat through the whole time we're reading it on our Discord. Check out our Discord. It's down there. Discord and Instagram and Patreon and all kinds of stuff down there for you to check out. So, hey, this was what won the Patreon read when we spun the ping pong balls. The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. This has been on my stack for quite a while. I was really happy that it won, and it was a very, very fun read. It had everything that I expected from Christopher Buehlman. I had read only one book of his before, The Lesser Dead, which I read last year for spooky season. So that's 2 spooky seasons in a row I've had a Christopher Buehlman read. I will say I think I enjoyed The Lesser Dead a bit more.
You did have a lot of fun with The Lesser Dead, though.
Yeah, well, first of all, vampires are my jam. That's one of my faves.
Sure.
My absolute fave creatures. And number 2 is such a good use of unreliable narrator, and I just thought it was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. This, though, had exactly what you would expect from a Christopher Buehlman read. It has that amazing authorial voice. Each and every character has a distinct voice. He is very, very good at injecting humor into his work. It's a really interesting quest. It's a really interesting journey. You will never look at. I mean, it is terrifying. The goblins, the orcs, whatever kind of creature, goblins, I believe they are. They are terrifying. Like, really? They are absolute. Yeah. They go all the way with these, and it's got some wonderful twists by the end, things you think you were expecting didn't quite work out. I did have some problems with it. It wasn't one of my favorite reads of the month, but I really enjoyed it. And the way it wrapped up, the way he wrapped it up and the way he set up what could happen in future books has me absolutely wanting to pick up the next book, which I think is a prequel to this. And you kind of see where some of the characters came from before they got here. And I would absolutely pick up the sequel to this because where he ends this, very intriguing. Really, really very intriguing. He subverts some tropes. It's a lot of fun. And where he leaves us off, it's like, oh, I would definitely be all in on following what happens there. But there are some the way some of the tropes are portrayed. There are absolutely some surprises. The characters were a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed it. Absolutely enjoyed it.
I gotta be honest.
Not one of my favorites, but I enjoyed it.
I was gonna say this seems like maybe the first Patreon read that you weren't like crazy about. Not that you didn't like this one.
Yeah, it didn't blow my. Usually they know exactly what makes me tick, and my hair is completely blown back. My hair wasn't blown back by this, but it was a very, very fun read. I really did enjoy it.
Well, you can count on Patreon for that.
Yeah.
Well, really, BookTube in general.
I really do want to continue. Yeah, I rarely have bad reads. I mean, even though I had a couple issues with this, I wouldn't. It was still a really good read.
Yeah.
From there, like I say, vampires are my jam.
Oh,
Couldn't have
that's right.
a spooky season without a vampire read, so I had to do The Historian. Again, thanks to Brenda from Reading by My Shelf, who sent this to me. This is one of her favorite vampire reads, I believe, and she wanted to share it with me, and that was just amazing. This was, the start of this blew my hair back. Like, I absolutely loved I love the start of this alternate history field, these academics that are going to be pulled into something by this book being left for them. Well, I didn't ask the librarian for this. What is that doing here? And then they start to realize that they've been pulled into this other world, this alternate history, and he takes it to his student advisor, and his advisor. Oh, I got the same book when I was a young academic as well, and this is what it did to my life. And then from there, it starts to go even worse than that. It completely unravels and go horror. And I was like so into this. And there's this supernatural threat that seems to be stalking them. And then all of a sudden, it splits into this multi-generational story where this young academic is a bit older, telling the story, and his young daughter finds his copy of the book. So now his daughter is involved. So now we have several stories running on parallel of his daughter trying to catch up and him trying to understand what happened to him as a young man and how this has affected his life. And all of it's barreling towards, is Vlad Tepes still alive? Is the curse of the undead truly real? Has this been going on in our history all along? And the author here of Elizabeth Kostova does such an amazing job of bringing in some actual history and tweaking it just enough to make you totally believe this. Where it started to go a bit wrong for me, I had a little bit of a pace issue after about a quarter in. Once you hit the middle, I started to feel like every epiphany was just one more book, one more letter, one more archive to be visited. I started to lose some of that supernatural threat that was just around the corner or stalking them. They seemed to get away from that for me for a little bit, so it just started to. The foot came off the gas a little bit in that respect. It wasn't driving as much for me. And then by the end, when they do come face to face with this evil they've been chasing, I love my evil to be, especially one in this way that's been courting academics and putting together lore, forgotten and otherwise, to understand man. And I think the bit of sophistry of explaining itself, evil this is, explaining itself and tempting some other academics to join him. I just thought that argument was somewhat weak. I just wanted it to be more appealing, more insidious, more insinuating itself into these academics to try and pull them the way I love to see evil portrayed. So there were some stumbling blocks for me here. Love the beginning, kind of love the end. By the end, at the very end, it kind of really kicked back into high gear. and wrapped up pretty satisfyingly and nicely. The middle chunk for me got a bit slow, so I'm not going to say this makes my all-time fave vampire read list, but very happy to have read it. It's a very different take on a vampire story, and if you're a big fan of Bram Stoker and the lore around Vlad Tepes, the warlord from Wallachia, absolutely worth checking out. You might very well find it just mesmerizing. I had some stumbling blocks with it myself.
So then, so far, you've got Doomickey up for Book of the Month, and that's it so far.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, Stephen King. I mean, when he hits, man, it goes out of the park.
But then, what came next?
What came next was Assassin's Quest, Book 3 of the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. This has taken over my TBR. Like, I was just going to read Assassin's Apprentice a few months back, and let me tell you,
which was the Patreon read winner, wasn't it?
It absolutely was. So this is how they know me so well. It blew my hair back so hard, it feathered it. I looked like that guy from the Partridge Family. I looked like Keith Partridge. That's how hard it blew my hair back. It gave me an entirely different salon look from a different decade, a different era. That's how much it blew my hair back. So I had to change my whole TBR for the next 2 months going forward and do one of these books in the trilogy a month for the next 3 months, and it is wrapped up in the month of October. Maybe not what you would consider a spooky read, but I had to squeeze it in because I was enjoying the trilogy so much. And what did I think of this wrap-up? Some people, it gets kind of mixed for the wrap-up.
Well, I remember you saying there was a part that you were a little mixed on.
I don't remember that part.
I remember coming to you at one point and asking how it was going, and you were maybe like 2/3 of the way through, and you said there was a pace situation happening.
Yeah, but then I realized what was going on.
Okay.
And it absolutely rectified. Look, some people are going to think that this is a story of an empire collapsing and a great quest of some people at the right place at the right time, being called by destiny to step up and how they're going to save their people and their empire. And yes, it absolutely is a story of that. It absolutely is a story of the Outlanders and their hijacking people from this community, and they're stripping them of all their empathy and emotions and throwing them back out there as the Forged. Think of kind of like a zombie situation where your loved one could be taken by these raiders along the coastline, and then they'll release those loved ones back to you, and it's like, ooh, those loved ones now are completely psychopathic, ravening people that you can't even deal with, and it doesn't even matter what their past relationships were. So the theme of connection, community, relationship, connection, the threat is those disconnected from community so much to the point where they are the threat, plays out through all three of these books. And you absolutely have a story here of a great fantasy trilogy about a threat to an empire, and actually the political intrigue to the point where there's even a coup going on inside the royal family, and all the tropes are there of a young bastard to a royal family being dropped off with that royal family be raped. Like, there's so many wonderful tropes that start. But by the time I get to this third book, for me, what this book becomes about is the coming of age of Fitz Chivalry Farseer and his search for a father figure, his search for a place in the world, his search for a first love, his search for what his life will mean to himself and others. And by the time you get to this third book, he is leaving the safety of his mentors. He's leaving this empire. He's throwing himself out into the world. He's going to find out what this means to him. He's going to find out, and that pace problem I was telling you about, that I felt, let's slow down a little bit for me here. Then I stopped and I started to really think about it. And I started to think about what it was like when I was a young person and had thrown myself out into the world to figure things out. And again, I was about as stupid as Fitz was, where the first thing he thinks about doing when he throws himself out of the world is not let me tell you, this is not the smartest plan I've ever heard about. Kind of like when I got into my friend's, I think 1982 Pontiac Le Mans with no air conditioning, and we drove across the desert to go to LA and do a play together. It was about that level of smarts, this plan. So I completely connected to it. And of course, it goes horribly wrong. And when that pace started to slow down for me, it's like, this is life. This is not easy. This is arduous. You're going to have some slings and arrows. You're going to have to overcome it. You're going to have to overcome it on your own because you've left your mentors behind and you're trying to figure things out on your own. You're going to bump into people again that are going to come back around in your life and be important. You're going to start to understand what that first love really was and what it meant and what that mark is going to leave on you and how you're going to have to carry that grief moving forward. All of these things, this trilogy is about a life lived. It is about 3 distinct areas of this person's life, and not only him, because all of the cast around him is so unbelievably and unimaginatively realistically drawn. And it is about these people at this time, in this place, and these lives moving forward and intertwining in the connectivity of those things. And when you're on that road to identity, when you're trying to define yourself and decide who you will be, and when you're on that road, it's not easy and it's arduous and it takes time. And when I started to realize that was metaphor for me, everything slotted into place. And then by the end, it just really connected with me because of the portrayal of duty and honor and sacrifice and passion and obsession in creativity and what it takes, that you have to inject that creation if you're going to want it to quicken and fly and live and change the world, as we know art can do, creation can do. As you let it go, you know it can touch others. And if we touch others in the right way, we leave this world a little bit better than we came into it. And to do that, you have to put all of your drama and angst and pain and past into that. And it was just, it was true. By the end, the book was so beautiful to me. It spoke so personally to me that what I told you early on melted away.
Interesting.
And I don't think I understood what was being built there, what she was doing there. Because at the beginning of this, it does, man. It clicks. You're in an adventure. His decision of where he wants to go, what he wants to do, that's some pace, and it clicks right along, and it's pretty exciting. And then real life kind of catches up to him. So
then what I'm hearing is it's not up for Book of the Month. You didn't like it enough.
No, that's not what you're hearing. This could be the 3rd month in a row that it's Robin Hobb.
We're gonna have to get a shirt made.
Should
we be lucky enough to meet Robin Hobb at Dragonsteel, we would have a shirt.
We could give her a 3-time Book of the Month shirt.
Yeah, she'll throw it away immediately. She'll never wear it. Why would she?
She probably wouldn't accept it.
That's probably true.
I couldn't imagine her even accepting it to throw it away. So then, look, I had one more read. I had time for one more read. I wrapped up the month with The Blue Flames by Jacqueline Hagan. This is book 3 of the Riverfall Chronicles. I'm so glad this ended up spooky season. I've been waiting to get back into Riverfall Chronicles because of the great cliffhanger she leaves us on book 2 on Spider Key. I was kind of scared to get back into it. There was a part of me that didn't want to know, because I've been following these characters and I'm kind of all in on several of them. And this cliffhanger, I don't know if I wanted an answer, but I wanted to get back into it for spooky season because this is such a great fantasy series that is so different. It's such a genre blender. You've got Gaslamp, you've got steampunk, you've got fantasy, you've got cozy fantasy at moments where you're just calmly spending time with these people and they just infect you and you just want to just hang out with them. You've got mystery. You don't know who to trust. You don't know quite what's going on behind this conspiracy. You've got a nice thread of horror all the way through this. A bit of kind of has like a cosmic horror feel for me because it's got one reality bleeding into another, and this reality bleeding in is like ooh, not a nice place at all. And as it bleeds in, you kind of have that feeling. So many things in this great genre blender that is just served up to, and it's just right for me. It just hits my taste buds perfectly. This is a great meal. Look, this finally starts answering some questions.
After 3 books.
But you know what? That's not a problem.
No, not at all.
You're building, and this, look, the picture is starting to become clear. You're starting to know who you can be all in on, who you can trust, and oh, what a great! I cannot wait for the. I've got 1 book left that is out, and I'm telling you, this is one of those that I'm just going to have to start grabbing right away when they come out. It's not going to be long before I pick up Sundering Hours, because. You know, this is just, again, it's all the wonderful themes that I love of family and duty and honor. And it uses story in such an amazing way. I just talked about this on Weekly Reader, but this whole conspiracy, this whole thing turning basically pivots on the power of story to change the world. And if that is used not for good, but if you start to use that in some type of way that it starts to tip the scales over into propaganda, and you start to, through the infrastructure of bureaucracy and past culture and history, deliver that to people over and over again in a way that makes them think that there is a reality going on, and it starts to draw lines between them and others, and then it starts to draw those lines deeper, and it starts to allow us to demonize or make the others inhuman in a way, villainize them in such a way that you can absolutely shape the world in a way that makes it a vastly darker place. And in this, we have the people that we wanted to be all in on, but we just couldn't be sure. They're scattered to the winds because of that cliffhanger I talked about at the end of book 2. So we start being able to follow them to all different places in this world as they uncover little threads of that mystery, and the picture starts to become clear, and it just coalesces around an amazing conspiracy story. And I love the way she uses the power of story as a theme in this book. It's just so wonderfully done, and it was such a great end to spooky season. So,
well, maybe now that you're
there are some months this would have been up for book of the month.
Oh, I fully believe you.
Yeah, but it just was not. It just got edged out a little bit.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, both of these books are dealing with the obsession and passion of creation and what that can, how that can take over a life, and how that can spread from that life out into the world and make such a difference, be it for good or for ill, an answer to a mystery or the crux of the mystery itself, perpetuating and moving forward, right? So both of these things are dealing with that same kind of theme. What is it going to be? What do you think? It is spooky season. We could go with the King of Horror without a doubt.
I know what your
pick is. It would make
is.
Total sense.
But I know what your pick is.
You think so?
No, yeah.
All right. Because my pick is going to be Assassin's Quest. I have to do it. I got to do it 3 months in a row. There's no way when we do our 20... I think it'd be early 2025. We have to revisit my favorite fantasy series. There's no way this is not on the list. Realm of the Elder Lings.
I bet it's high on the list as well.
I'm only a trilogy in, but wow, this is just magic for me. This is just that. It's great character literature. It's great magic. It's great metaphor. It's great world building. The world building is done so gently. I could just go on, and I probably will. I'm probably going to make a video of why everyone should be reading this series. But so I won't, I've gone on long enough, but I'm telling you, this has just been absolute magic for me. I just think Robin Hobb is By the time I'm done with Realm of the Elderlings, I can't imagine she's not one of my all-time fave writers.
Well, now that you've finished the first 3, I would say you have a big thanks to give to the wonderful guy that sent that to you.
No, absolutely, and we're going to do our best to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So meaningful to me that you sent these in to me and shared your story, shared your favorite story. I got to tell you, it's one of mine now as well. In case you're watching, thank you. This is extremely meaningful, and we have a plan, and I hope we're able to pull it off. That is it for us, man.
It is.
That's it for the month of October.
You read a lot.
Let's see. That is 6 books right there.
That's outrageous. Look at that.
That's a pretty decent stack.
It's almost as tall as your Tumblr.
No, the Tumblr.
No, I said almost.
Bit. Yeah, it's close though.
If you had one more.
If I had I could not. What's the last book that I read? Blue Flames. I literally wrapped up on the 31st. Like I had that. There was no time for that.
Yeah,
it was close. Yeah, there was no time for anything else. Great month, great spooky season. Jacob even finished something. And you're starting out November strong. You finished something.
I am, and I got a plan to get a lot of stuff done this month. We'll go over it in the next video, but
ooh, all right. I'm excited.
I'm
excited. So what did you guys get up to for spooky season? Hit us up in comments. Let us know everything you've read. I hope you had some amazing spooky reads. I hope you even if you're not into spooky books, I hope you had some 5-star reads. We want to hear about them all. I love to talk about books with people that love books like I do, love the kind of books that I love. That's the whole reason we started this channel. Hit us up in comments and let us know how your month was. While you're down there, you probably don't even think about this, but that little thumbs up button, it's so important to us. It helps us grow. It helps us meet new people. It helps us make new friends that we can talk about books about and hang out. And it just greases the wheels of everything we do here. Just a quick click. It helps us out. It's a great way to help the channel. It's low stress for you. And, while you're down there, maybe you just wanted to see what this doofus read for a month, and this is your first time around the channel, or you've been here a time or two, and you haven't hit that subscription button yet. You know what? It's so easy. Boop, takes a microsecond. You're done. You found a new group of people that you can hang with. You can talk books with. You can join us on our Discord. You can join us all over and talk to us on all the buddy reads we got coming up. And when you find some people to hang out with, you find those like-minded souls that love story and want to talk about story and understand how story can change the world. You find those people. You find one of you. It gives you a little bit of a tingle when you hit that button. When you expand your people that way, and you have folks to talk story with, test it.
I'm contractually obligated to agree.
Yes, that's where we've come. So if that is it for us. Please let us know how your spooky season was. I hope it was as good as mine. I had a great. There were some stumbles overall, but I had a great reading month.
Pretty small stumbles, all things considered.
Yeah, even the stumbles I had, I would still rate the books. Both of these books, I would absolutely recommend. They're not recommends for, hey, everyone grab this, but I would absolutely feel confident recommending it to certain types of readers, for sure. This, if you haven't started this, I would 100% recommend starting your Realm of the Elderlings journey for everyone. This I would absolutely recommend if you've ever read Stephen King. If you've never read Stephen King, this might be a fun place to start if you want to get into a multi-generational mystery out on the Florida Keys that revolves around the passion of creation and wonderful tragedy, the characters that you will just bleed for as they go through everything they're going to go through. So those, I'm going to say, let's do this. Those are I would recommend to everyone. Let's throw the links down there for the Farseer trilogy and Doom Key. We'll put links down there because those are the absolute recommends.
Fair enough. Go pick them up if you haven't.
Done deal. Everybody, thank you so much. My name is John Minton. That is...
Robin Hobb.
Oh, man, I wish.
I thought you were going to have a longer outro because you usually talk for a while.
You could tell me what's happening next. I think we've talked for a good while.
That's all you. I've said very little.
Well, that's par for the course. Son.
No, that is true. Regardless, I'm Robin Hobb.
No. You know what? This is what Robin Hobb isn't even Robin Hobb. It's a pseudonym, so you can't have that.
That is true. Yeah.
So we'll go with that. So are we going to get a T-shirt made?
I guess we have to now, don't we? Just in case. Time? Oh yeah, if we have time. I'd have to order it pretty quick. We'll do our best. How about that? We'll do our best.
We'll have to talk about that in the next production meeting.
Oh God, it's never gonna happen.
Thanks so much for joining us right here on Talking Story.